Going into this week's NXT show, which was the first weekly episodic NXT show on the WWE Network after the NXT Arrival live pay-per-view 2-hour special, the big question in my opinion really was how the hell they were going to follow up on what I thought was a very good NXT Arrival show, pay-per-view style NXT Arrival show last week. If you have any comments on this show, or if you're a first-time watcher and you have some questions, please don't hesitate to put them in that comment section below. First, I just want to talk about the presentation of this show. You know, some of the things have been changed, such as the opening video introduction. I must admit, I do think this video introduction of NXT this week, it feels a bit more bigger league in my opinion, with the new graphics and the new layout and the way it's done, etc. Even though I did like the old theme, I don't mind this new theme. The overall presentation of the show I felt has gotten a little bit better with the arena and the way they've done backstage segments, etc. Now it's on the WWE Network and it's being watched by more people. I guess WWE have taken notice that they need to make this show feel at least a little bit more bigger league. And also I felt this show this week flowed pretty nicely. They had plenty of backstage segments in there explaining what was going to be happening during the night with matches, etc. Video packages and backstage segments and interviews for different characters. So there was all these little things here and there going on, as well as the in-ring segments, which made NXT feel like a show where, you know, plenty of stuff was happening. It was also important, in my opinion, that after NXT Arrival, which, let's face it, some people may not have watched, that we got some kind of video recap of the three main things that happened on the show, the Zayn and Cesaro match, the Women's Championship match, and the main event ladder match, and we did get that L. We even got a Cena promo sort of putting over Adrian Neville in what I believe was the dark main event kind of thing they did on that show. I think it was very important on this week's NXT show that we started with the new NXT Champion, and the first thing we saw on the show really in an in-ring segment was the new NXT Champion, Adrian Neville, who very quickly dispatched of Camacho in what was pretty much an enhancement match. But the main crux of this segment was the interview segment afterwards, where Renee Young interviewed Adrian Neville. And, you know, I think this is very necessary if you're the new NXT Champion, because you need to be able to get your feelings and emotions across to the fans and just be able to give a general message across as to how you feel about winning the championship. It's just very basic wrestling 101. Although, to be honest with you, you know, Adrian Neville can hardly put butts in seats, let's face it. His promo skills are really not very good at all. I mean, I don't mind the stuff when he's saying the belt is validation and never question him in the ring, etc. But don't go saying that you're a small elf man and making fun of your accent. That really, in a WWE promo where you've just become the new NXT Champion, is a real big no-no in my opinion. You shouldn't really be putting yourself down like that, even though it's a joke at the expense of yourself. Adrian Neville really needs to work on his promo skills, especially if he's going to be the NXT Champion for a long time going forward. We did have Bo Dallas come out, though, basically to cash in, saying he's going to cash his rematch clause in soon, so we're going to be getting that match down the line. I kind of liked how Bo Dallas came out to sort of congratulate Adrian Neville, while also belittling him a little bit, which is all part of his character, by saying that he never actually pinned him. So that was kind of funny, in my opinion, with the Bo Dallas character. But you know, I hope that they give this match a couple of weeks build rather than just doing it on like the next week's show or the week after show. Give this a couple of weeks build, you know, make the rematch feel important, and then move Adrian Neville away from Bo Dallas and onto greener pastures. So Ric Flair was backstage on this week's edition of NXT, just pretty much trolling and running business for his daughter, Charlotte Flair. He basically gets his daughter in a match with Emma via a backstage segment and then runs into Paige pretty much straight after. Don't know how that would really work. And then it basically looks like they're positioning Charlotte Flair as Paige's next challenger or jobber. But I do feel, for newer viewers that may not have seen Charlotte Flair, at least it gives her some kind of recognition that at least they'll know her dad, and then they'll know her by association with her dad. So that was a nice little touch on this sort of first viewing of Charlotte on NXT. I do really think, though, that some of these divas need to learn how to act a little bit. But there you go. That's always been a little bit of an issue with the Divas division, let's face it. We got to Emma versus Charlotte, which, like I said, was set up in that backstage segment earlier and after NXT Arrival. I found it was funny also that Sasha Banks was carrying out a Summer Rae mask on a stick, which is pretty much a good representation of Summer Rae, in my opinion. You know, you got to have that out there for inspiration, haven't you guys? And I did also find it funny how Charlotte did kind of learn something from her dad in the process. She basically gave Emma the great injury fake out and manages to pin her from behind after using that finisher. And, you know, And to be honest with you, I was very surprised that they had Charlotte go over Emma here, as Emma is one of the top divas on NXT right now. But I guess the way I look at it now is that if they're trying to position Charlotte, even though she may not be the best challenger for Paige, if they're trying to position Charlotte in a spot where she's going to be facing Paige for the NXT Women's Championship down the line possibly, she desperately needs big wins because she really hasn't had that many ever since she's been on NXT. And Emma is going to the roster now anyway, and she probably won't be making that many appearances in NXT, so it's kind of like a leaving gift. You know, I'll put over the next person you want to challenge Paige while I do my thing on the WWE roster. So I felt the Divas this week was actually done pretty well, and like I said, I'm not a massive fan of Charlotte going after the NXT Women's Championship, but hopefully she'll show me something in these next few weeks which will make me a little bit more of a fan of hers. So this week's NXT show was the debut on the WWE Network of Corey Graves. And I must warn a lot of you out there, I've never really been a massive fan of Corey Graves, much to many people's disappointment who really do seem to like him and think he's a talent, but I guess I've never really just got what Corey Graves is all about. You know, that's it. And to be honest, if you're going to introduce this character, Corey Graves, who's making his WWE Network debut, you would think that they would want to, you know, just because it's a new character to viewers, you think they want to give him a video package or maybe give us some idea as to what his character is all about. Because I, as a regular NXT viewer, may know what the character is all about, but newer viewers may not know that much about him, if not anything. So they need to know a little bit about him before he comes out to the ring. You know, he did give himself a short intro, you know, talking a little bit about himself and how this is his WWE debut, saying he's also pissed off that he wasn't on NXT Arrival, and it looks like he's developed some kind of beef with Sami Zayn pretty much out of nowhere. But there you go. He faces Yoshitatsu and wins by a pretty lame count-out victory and did very little, but this was probably more likely because he was going to be wrestling Sami Zayn later on in the night. We had a post-match attack on Yoshitatsu, which led to Sami Zayn coming out and laying the challenge to Corey Graves, and this basically made our main event, which is kind of quick. It's like Corey Graves just develops a little bit of beef for Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn challenges him. That same night, they're having a main event match. That, you know, kind of escalated very quickly, as one would say. So this really kind of felt like an opening segment, kind of like it was setting up for the main event. But the first thing you wanted to see was Adrian Neville, so I kind of understand why maybe they did this in the middle of the show. There is no doubt in my mind that the highlight of this week's NXT show was Adam fucking Rose. What a gimmick. They've taken Leo Kruger, who was a real boring hunter gimmick in my opinion, and now they've made him into a fun-loving club playboy. I thought this was fucking hilarious. You've got to give it to NXT and WWE. They went all out with this gimmick. They didn't half-ass this gimmick once. They had the backstage interview and they had the backstage video package with him in the club with the club music and the club scene and the dancing girls and everything, and the backstage interviewer going in there and him calling her boring and saying she needs to have some fun and dance, and he gets up dancing. I thought this shit was entertaining as hell. And that's before he even fucking got to the damn ring. You had Adam Rose defeat a random jobber, as he should. The ring entrance was him dancing with a bunch of Mardi Gras people. About 20 Mardi Gras brigade came out and just were dancing around him, and the crowd were fucking loving it. You know, even the crowd were chanting, "That was awesome," on his entrance, very similar to when Tyler Breeze debuted on NXT that time. We had the occasional "We want Kruger" chant, but, you know, there you go. As for his in-ring style, he is no longer a hunter. He is rolling around in the ring, just fooling around, having some fun, and he's kept the same finisher as Leo Kruger as well. Man, oh man, this Adam Rose gimmick, it's a damn load of fun. You gotta love it though when he's on the ring entrance, and then he's like pointing to his entourage, and the crowd, considering this is the first time they've seen this, were having quite a lot of fun dancing around to this gimmick, which is exactly, obviously, what this gimmick is about. It'll be interesting to see if this carries on down the line. But right now, Adam Rose, the highlight, in my opinion, of this week's NXT, I was laughing throughout this segment just seeing what this Adam Rose character is all about. That is how you introduce a new character to WWE NXT, not like you did with Corey Graves this week. So apparently Xavier Woods versus Alexander Rusev will be on NXT next week. Now, to a lot of you, this will probably be a new match which you've never seen before, but me, I've seen this match 2 or 3 times now, so I probably won't be paying too much attention to it. But the whole point of this segment was to follow up from the segment on NXT Arrival, which I didn't actually see until I went and watched the rerun, of, you know, Alexander Rusev taking out Tyler Breeze and Xavier Woods. So this, even though I'm not too interested in it, makes sense going forward. And they obviously want to make a big deal out of Alexander Rusev on this NXT show. Now they're featuring him on Raw and SmackDown and getting ready for his big debut on the WWE roster. So we opened up with our #1 babyface NXT champion, Adrian Neville, and we closed the show with the #2 babyface, Sami Zayn, as he faced Corey Graves in the main event match. This was a pretty solid main event match, I will say. I did enjoy how, you know, you had the commentators adding a little bit to the match, which didn't really have too much story going in. Basically saying that Cesaro focused on Zayn's leg at NXT Arrival, and they point this out and tell us that Corey Graves has a leg submission finisher. You know what that is, Michael Cole, Jerry Lawler, JBL? That's telling a fucking story and adding something to the match and telling the viewers at home what exactly is going on and giving us some kind of insight into the match and these two facing off. This is one good thing about NXT, in my opinion. The fact that the commentary just seems to be so much better, and they just seem to focus a lot more on the basics, especially with William Regal there, who knows a hell of a lot about being in the ring. He can recognize specific moves, where Michael Cole would say, what a great arm throw. He could say exactly what that fucking move is, which is always a good addition to the match. As for the match itself was not that eventful. I thought you had Sami Zayn winning the match via a roll-up, and I felt was the right decision. As you know, you wanted Sami Zayn to win this match in his first match on it, the WWE Network NXT weekly show, but you didn't want to make Corey Graves look too bad, so you had him get a couple of shots in. He got his finisher in twice, but couldn't quite lock it, and, you know, you had Sami Zayn win that way. So I thought that was a good way to sort of, you know, help both characters not look too bad. You know, doesn't make Sami Zayn look too good, but it doesn't make Corey Graves look too bad. So it was a decent, like I said, decent main event of this show, even though it wasn't really all that eventful, in my opinion. So I guess going forward that they're going to be doing Sami Zayn versus Corey Graves in a feud on NXT. Not really sure how I feel about that, but let's see how this develops over time. As for the show overall this week, I thought it was a pretty solid show. It wasn't really a knock the ball out of the park show like NXT Arrival, and I wasn't really expecting it. But the whole point of this show was to follow on from NXT Arrival, which I felt it did pretty well, and introduce us to characters that are going to be on this TV show on a weekly basis. You know, Corey Graves, Adam Rose. Oh boy, I can't wait to see that guy again. And the Divas were done pretty well this week, and we opened up with Adrian Neville, and even though he's not very good on the mic, it was a necessary promo segment between Adrian Neville and Bo Dallas, which is going to be setting up a rematch down the line. So, and you ended the show with your second babyface getting a big victory over a Corey Graves who just debuted on the WWE Network, of course, like you said. So I felt this was a pretty, like I said, solid, if not necessarily massively eventful edition of NXT. But going forward, if they're going to be introducing new characters, there may be more additions like this. It will take storylines a little while to kick in, much like it did with the debut of NXT, you know, in the summer of 2012. So we'll see how the show goes going forward. I'll be continuing to review this show, of course. And if you have any comments on anything I've said or the show itself, please let me know down in the comment section below. I have been Mr. Parkin. See you same time next week for another NXT review. Remember, it's now on the WWE Network, I believe at 9 PM, which is 2 AM for all you British people, and there's plenty of streams out there you can watch it on. Oh yeah, and don't forget, Adam Rose FTW.